Whether you love them or hate them, I think it would be a little dishonest to act like the One Piece Marines aren't some of the more interesting and well-written characters in the story. They face a lot of moral dilemmas and some relatable conflicts that we can see in real life and that a lot of people can find themselves relating to. Not me, but a lot of people. Anyway, I don't think it's crazy to want to support the good guys, at least the self-proclaimed good guys that these guys are. We often find ourselves trying to live through heroes and stories because we imagine ourselves to be good people as they are. But these aren't really good people. I want to go ahead and get this out the way. The One Piece isn't political crowd. If you think that's the case, let's try to go back to 5th grade ELA, because come on, dog. Let's be realistic. This is a story where we follow a guy that's going around toppling corrupt regimes, seeking freedom, saving people along the way. He literally declared war on the world government. If that's not about politics, then what is about politics? Does politics exist? If One Piece isn't about politics, what story is? I would love to know, because it just can't exist by that definition or by that logic. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes of the video. This is Editor Crow checking in, and I kind of wanted to pop in and drive home a point that I don't think I did a very good job in pushing during the recording. I probably would have re-recorded if my PC wasn't tripping. But anyway, I wanted to say that throughout this video, you'll hear me kind of equating the actions of the world government with the Marines. A lot of people will say that's not fair because they're two separate entities. And I think that is letting the Marines off the hook a lot. Because when the world government needs dirty shit done, who are they calling? The Marines. When the auction house that sells slaves is attacked, who did they call? Kizaru. When the Buster call had to be done on Ohara, who did they call? The Marines. So let's not try to baby the Marines and separate them. When shit goes down, they're not calling Kaku and Rob Lucci. Maybe sometimes, but for the most part, they're calling the Marines. Or they'll call a mixture of both. Anyway, back to the video. So what exactly is wrong with the Marines and what they do? They go around, they save people. They are the justice on the seas, allegedly. Let me walk you through a scenario. If I walked up to you and I stabbed you with a knife, fully inside of you, pause, and then I pull that knife out halfway a few minutes later, would you thank me for pulling the knife out? Or would you focus on the fact that I stabbed you for no reason? You would not accept that as me saving you. You would acknowledge that, hey, that doesn't erase the root of the problem, which is you initially stabbing me. There's no amount of good deeds. There's no amount of good cops or good Marines that can erase the problems that arise from the fact that the Marines don't help those who cannot afford to pay them. Most of the problems in the world, and we're going to examine this later on, comes from the fact that a lot of people cannot afford to pay the heavenly tribute, and therefore they must suffer in poverty and in violence, and it creates a snowball effect that leads to people on those islands that can't afford stuff having to be protected from these so-called heroes. Now, you don't think that add up? I get it. Let's examine. All right, let's talk about Sphinx Island. Sphinx Island was once a member of the world government. It was struggling to pay its tribute, and it eventually fell out of the favor and was kicked out. Because of that, they no longer had protection from the Marines. The island fell into ruin. There was nothing but war and poverty and hunger and people fighting for their right to survive, which I think it's fair to say that every human being has a right to survive, unless your name is Green Bull. You know, obviously you don't think that to be the case. But anyway, Sphinx Island was lucky. Sphinx Island had a Whitebeard to go out to sea, become a great pirate, come back, take it under his umbrella, protect it, and establish order. But everybody doesn't have a Whitebeard. Everybody isn't lucky like that. Tons of islands either A, forced a lot more people out to seas to become pirates that just continue ravaging other places to survive, or B, eventually cannibalizes itself due to hunger and poverty, right? So who do we blame in this scenario? Do we blame the Marines for removing their protection, or do we blame the pirates for fighting for their rights to survive? Pirates can be solved. Most of them that go to sea wind up getting wiped out anyway. But the creation of them is not being solved because the need to become a pirate, the need to become a criminal by the world government's definition, does not get removed. So we can't keep blaming the pirates if the pirates keep coming from the same situation. And this is kind of highlighted through Kaido's backstory. This is another poor nation that was having to wage war to pay for its protection. And in doing so, they exploited this young man who would wind up becoming the man that Kaido is. His whole ideology was kind of shaped by this framework that the weak survive and the weak die and the strong survive. So I'm going to be strong. I'm going to recruit nothing but strength under me. Now let's go ahead and address the comment that I know a lot of people are typing, which is, do I not blame the pirates for any of their actions? Yes, I am. I'm not trying to paint the pirates as some hopeless victims in this situation. They're clearly not good people either. But if you're forced to survive under any means necessary, then I can't be mad with you when any means. I can't be mad with you, but I can't blame you when you use any means to survive, right? I'm not absolving them of all wrongdoing. I'm just saying sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And these are people that are doing what they got to do. So when we look at the fact that two of the original Yonko were forced to the seas basically directly because of the Celestial Tribute system, and then we also add in how another Yonko, Big Mom, her life was kind of strongly shaped by some shady business dealings, Jesus, from the world government. That's 3 or 4 of the great pirates, the greatest pirates in the world, kind of molded by the fact of faulty world government dealings. This is not by mistake. He's clearly trying to communicate something. And it's funny, right? I wrote this video about maybe 2 months ago, but my computer kind of went out on me, so I wasn't able to really ever record it. And in that time, since then, we've gotten some stuff from Shanks and God Valley and about his parents, and we saw Garland just literally murder his mother because he found another wife that was more suitable for him and was just going to take his kids. So let's make that 4 out of 4 of the original Yonkos. Lives were extremely drastically affected by the world government and their system. And that's just the Yonko. We can also look at the Supernova and the Warlords and plenty of other people that we've met in this story whose lives were drastically affected by world government incompetence or world government wickedness. Probably a mixture of the two. So this idea that, yeah, the Marines are the good guys and the pirates are the bad guys, I really have to question that, because looking at all the characters we've met, can you really say that? Seriously, can you really say that? And that brings us to the myth of justice, right? Justice is something that is commonly talked about amongst the ranks of the world government. Is literally plastered on the back of their, what do you call those? Jackets. I'm forgetting basic words. All right. So first of all, here's my biggest thing. The fact that everybody is running around with varying definitions of what justice is should let you know that they actually don't know what the hell it is themselves. Justice, at its core, I guess you can say, seems to be based on this idea of evildoers getting punished for their misdeeds. But when the definition of evil changes as often as the government sees fit, then you run into an impasse. Akainu's entire philosophy is flawed because with no hesitation, you kill a bunch of innocent people on an island just because the government told you that what they were doing was wrong. Because you lack the spine to question anything. Kizaru murders a man who he considered to be a very close friend, and he was inches away from killing a 12-year-old girl just because the government told you they did something bad. This excuse of being a cog in a machine only goes so far when you realize that machine itself is created with only evil components. At some point, just doing your job isn't enough. You have to grow a spine. And that's why we see so few conquerors amongst the ranks of the world government, I think, at least. Yeah, there are some. Of course, Garp. Akainu will probably be a conqueror. Sengoku be a conqueror. It's crazy to me because that dude is a bum. He might be the biggest bum in the Marines, bro. But yeah, you see so few conquerors amongst the Marines because most of these guys are not deciding how they live. They live the way that the government tells them to see fit. And it's sad. It's sad. So that brings me to another point. Are there any good Marines? No, there's no such thing as a good Marine. Because to be a Marine, you must be involved in this system that actively contributes to a bunch of atrocities across the world. Now, are there good people that can become Marines with this idea of doing good? Yeah, sure. Garp, I'm pretty sure Garp is not a bad person at heart. Kobe is not a bad person at heart. But no matter how kind-hearted you are, your actions are supporting this government. So no, there is no such thing as a good Marine. It's similar to the all cops are bastard thing that we saw during the real life anti-cop movement. This system is inherently flawed, and it supports a government that enslaves, and does a lot of other bad things that I don't want to get demonetized per se. It neglects a lot of countries that can afford to be a member of its club. So if you're a member of the Marines, no matter how good you are, your actions are supporting this government. So no, there's no such thing as a good Marine. It may be harsh, it may seem harsh, but tell the slaves in Mary Joie who watched the Marines protect the auction house, but they were sold, tell them that they're good Marines. We can love Garp and Kobe, but we can't ignore facts. Garp knew exactly what was going on at God Valley, and he was off laid up with some baddies. Didn't want to go until he heard Roger was there. He knew what was happening. Was not interested in going at all until he heard Roger was there. Standing by and doing nothing while you know that evil is happening is just as bad as doing it yourself, especially when you have the power to stop it. Yeah, we in America, there's a lot of stuff going on across the world that our government is actively involved in, and it's foolish, it's bullshit. But we don't have the power, at least alone, or at least we have convinced ourselves we don't have the power. I think we have a lot more power than we know of, but we, as it stands, don't have the power to really stop it. But these guys have the power to stop it. Garp has the power to leave and go join a Roger or a Rox or whatever in certain situations or certain points in the world, or his son. Garp has the power to go make a difference immediately. And it's like, he doesn't. He chooses not to. He wants to try to change the system from within, allegedly, but he's not doing anything actively to do that. And that's why I respect Dragon so much, especially after this last chapter. Man, to watch him at his first mission already realize, I'm not doing this, bro. Do you not see what's going on? Some people spend their whole lives in the Marines before they make that decision. It took Dragon no time. He was 17. That's $1 million points of respect. And I'm glad I made my video on Dragon before this, because I'm seeing the stuff play out in real time. But anyway, I feel like the only way to redeem these guys is to remove all association with the world government and become people who actually protect citizens of the One Piece world without question, and not just those who can afford them, which probably happens in the series, but it doesn't excuse what's already happening. So in conclusion, I think that a lot of the obsession with justifying the actions of the Marines, one, justifies the actions of the world government by extension, because if you work for the Marines, you're working for the world government. Two, needs to stop, because I want people to understand that you can like a character and think a character is cool without justifying what they're doing. I like Kizaru. I think Egghead made me like him a lot less, but at one point Kizaru was one of my favorite characters, but I would never tell you that. Well, if you really think about it, Kizaru was right. He was no, I'm not doing that. And this same goes for a bunch of other characters. A lot of people like Doflamingo. I don't think anyone would tell you that Doflamingo had a point or he was right in doing what he did to Dressrosa. But for some reason, Admiral fans find it necessary to just defend their every action. It's dude, you can like characters, but also not ignore things that the author is clearly communicating. That's all it is. Anyway, thank y'all for coming through. I really appreciate it. And please like and subscribe so we can grow the channel. And peace out.